Okay, so this article here is a fascinating angle on Trump's tariffs. So we already know what's going to happen to the bulk of production or anything that needs to cross borders frequently. What they've tried to do is maximize all their stocks, hoping in that day on day there's a chance that the orange man may change his mind. And of course, that was always possible. That is always possible. A minute from now, 2 minutes from now, an hour from now, could change his mind and go in a completely different direction. But that's not the case right now. So now we get into those points of reckoning. You have to make a decision about where you import the replacement goods, which are mostly from China, and those are going to be over 100%, right? So the bulk situation on tariffs is known. But what about the Temus of the world? What about those one-to-one trades? What happens to all of that? This article from Sky News is going to explain it.
What is the latest on tariffs? Well, let's just give you a bit of a primer. You're probably familiar with this, the big picture. We're looking at the US and the tariffs that they are imposing on China. Additional tariffs recently, had that extra 10%, another extra 10% coming in March, another 10% coming in April, and then that massive 145% tariff rate on Chinese goods. China has retaliated, of course, but of course there's way more stuff coming in from China to the US than there is the other way around. But here's what's interesting, okay? So that's the big number facing Chinese goods, but some Chinese goods up until now haven't actually had to face that. And why is that? It's down to a rule called de minimis. Do you know about de minimis? Well, it's a little bit obscure, but you might well have encountered it, because basically it says that if something is very cheap, then it basically costs more than you can gain by trying to impose tariffs on it. So take something, for instance, the UK, every country around the world, this is showing you the threshold at which this de minimis rule kicks in. In the UK, anything under £135, we don't charge customs on it because it's just seen as being too cheap and not worth it. In the US, that threshold is $800, a lot higher. And actually in the US, you've seen a big increase in goods coming into the US which are below that threshold and therefore don't pay customs. So up since 2018 by 146%. And what is that? A lot of it is fast fashion. It's places like Temu, so it's consumer goods, it's Shein, stuff that's coming in that's cheap, that's actually flown across from China. It's so cheap that it doesn't go over that threshold and you have to pay customs, therefore it's a lot cheaper. But here's what's interesting. Donald Trump says, and he signed this executive order back in early April, he said, we're getting rid of it. Okay, so you are going to have to pay those customs rates. It's worth saying, he did say this once before and then kind of reversed it. But nonetheless, he says at the end of this week, that's going to come in. And what's interesting is, in the run-up to that, look at where these Temu, for instance, there's Temu, and here's Shein, Chinese cheap goods, which basically benefit from that what a lot of people see as a loophole. That was where they were on the App Store, so high up in terms of their ranking.
Let's not miss that. So the exclusion, was it $800 basically? That $800 exclusion after his executive order was going to finish at the end of that week. Now, if you look at the graph, no clues about when that was going to be. Basically, around about the 10th of April, swoosh all the way down. So all of a sudden, all those imports became incredibly expensive. Let's see what else he's going to say. Let's go back a little bit. Let's see what else he's going to say.
Look at where these Temu, for instance, there's Temu, and here's Shein, Chinese cheap goods, which basically benefit from that what a lot of people see as a loophole. That was where they were on the App Store, so high up in terms of their ranking. Their ranking has fallen, so consumers basically are shunning these apps in advance. And why are they doing that? Well, if you look at the pricing that you're seeing on some of these sites, this is Shein, it's just taking a basket of goods and looking at how it's changed just over the course of 3 days. So 24th of April, that's how much the typical basket of goods was in the US, that's the UK price, and look at what happened the next day. Look at that bar, it went up, and it went up quite a lot. This is the next day after that, went down a tiny bit, but still up by 10.4%, and that's just overall. Some goods you're talking about up by kind of 300% for certain items. The UK's down, so that's the key thing. In the US, it looks very inflationary. As people are anticipating, you're going to have to start paying those tariffs even on cheap goods. In the UK, basically no change. Though it's worth saying, Rachel Reeves does want to have a review on the UK's rules as well.
I just want to make a quick point. The actual tariffs relate to source production in China. That is at a very small fraction of the prices you actually pay in store, and the middlemen do take a massive chunk. Okay, so 100% tariff is not necessarily going to result in a 100% increase in prices, but it will stretch margins. Okay, and what it will do is leave a decision for the capitalist basically about whether they want to take less profit for self, or if they want to lay people off, or if they want to diminish worker rights, or that type of thing. And who do you think's going to win on that equation most of the time historically? Anyway, let's go.
Final thing to say, in advance of this, a lot of that stuff comes in on planes, but a lot of it also comes in on ships. And in advance of these tariffs kicking in, there's been a massive fall in the flow of ships across from China over the Pacific to the US, okay? And for some people, they look at that and they worry that might well signify empty shelves in stores.